feel so alive, alive, inside, inside. I'm breaking through the haze to a brand new day, 'cause my heart has been revived. I feel so alive, alive, inside, inside. I'm breaking through the haze to a brand new day, 'cause my heart has been revived. I feel so alive. I feel so alive. A restless generation, we're turning over every stone, hoping to find salvation in a world that's left us cold. Can we get back to the altar, back to the arms of our first love? There's only one way to the Father, and He's calling out to us. To the captive it looks like freedom, to the orphan it feels like home. To the skeptic it might sound crazy to believe in a God who loves.
Watch out, friendly fire. Hey, what's up, LBC? We're so glad to be back for another Wednesday. Hop into activity for the short amount of time we have, but if you have not, start working your way to a seat with your group.
It's the cure for our condition. It's the good news for us all. It's greater than religion. It's the power of the cross. So can we get back to the altar, back to the arms of our first love? There's only one way to the Father, and He's calling out to us. To the captive it looks like freedom, to the orphan it feels like home. To the skeptic it might sound crazy to believe in a God who loves. In a world where our hearts are breaking and we're lost in the mess we've made, like a blinding light in the dead of night. It's the gospel that makes a way. It's the gospel that makes a way. It's the gospel.
Hey, all right, let's start working our way towards our seats. If you're at any one of our activities, this is the time to turn in a ball, basketball, 9 square, the kickball for 4 square, for 4 square. Start working your way to a seat. Say hello to a friend. Tell them you're glad they're here. Sam, I'm glad you're here, Sam. Please talk to me later. I would love to talk to you. I love to talk. So as you guys are working your way towards the seat, instead of just talking, I'm talking about you guys in the back that I can see just talking. Work your way to the seats. Oh, Tyler, what's up? Tyler, say hello to everybody. You've made it. No, you just push it one time.
Hello, everybody.
And I also want to go ahead and welcome Allie Nide to the stage. Whoa! Give a hand for a couple of our seniors. Awesome. Well, we are so glad to be back for another Wednesday night. Are you guys glad to be back?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
You said it so loud to me, but they can't hear you. Yes. Awesome. Hey, so, man, I just wanted to take a moment to welcome you back, whether you're here in person or you're at home. I love being here on Wednesday nights. It's just so refreshing to me. It's like there's so much work that goes in, and afterwards I'm like so just energized, like I don't know when you guys go to bed, but it's like 1 a.m. when I go to bed after Wednesday nights. So it's like, it just takes a while to work my way down, okay? Well, so for this last Sunday and Monday, I got the opportunity with a handful of our small group leaders, had the opportunity to take our seniors on a retreat. Now, if you guys don't know, for those who aren't seniors, Brad just a couple weeks ago talked about this statistic that we often see that it's hard to transition from middle school, high school, into adult life, whether that's college or work or whatever it is. And so we had the opportunity to get away for, about 30 hours, I think, was when it was all said and done, and just get away, unplugged, start thinking about this season and the next. And so I just thought it would be great not only to just celebrate that by just talking about it and highlighting it, but also asking a couple of our seniors to share. So first off, I just wanted to, I know I kind of said their names, but could you introduce yourself and where you're going to school right now?
I'm Tyler Vanderwoody, and I'm a senior at Southeast High School.
Woo! Yeah, that's right. Something to celebrate.
Yep. And I'm Allie Nighty. I'm a senior at Lincoln Christian.
Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I know coming up and being in front of everybody isn't always the most pleasant thing in the world, but thank you for the courage to come up here and share with us. So I got 3 questions. I sent them to you ahead of time so you guys could have a little preparation. But we'll start with Tyler, okay? And then Allie, I'll ask you next. But the first question, I just wanted you to kind of think back to the retreat. I know it's only been a day or so. But what next step did God highlight or invite you to take from your experience from our senior retreat?
Yeah, so at the senior retreat this weekend, the thing that God really highlighted to me was, are other people a problem, or are they just somebody who needs loved? And like the context of, I always want to, when I meet people or when I've been hanging out with them for a bit, to try to fix them. And that doesn't always work very well. So instead, I really want to now just love other people and just try not to put my opinions out there about what they should do, and just value them for who they are.
Yeah, so Tyler and I got to have a really cold conversation on, what was that, Sunday night on the way to the fire?
Yeah.
Yeah, just processing through, like, how do you, especially going into the new season, like, how do you become a better friend as you prepare for your future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, Allie, kind of the same question. I can read it again if you'd like.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, you got it? Awesome.
Yeah. So next step for me was to really invest in a strong, we talked about community a lot. So just really investing in a strong spiritual community that I can continue throughout college, hopefully.
Yeah, awesome. So then we'll stay with Allie. So a follow-up question to that is, like, how do you see yourself taking that next step over the coming months as you approach graduation and working on your way towards college?
Yeah, so I already have plans to start meeting up with people to just talk weekly about life, encourage each other, do Bible studies, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. And so what about you, Tyler? What does it look like for you to kind of execute those next steps over the couple months?
Yeah, so to execute the next steps, I want to just, when with my friends or just with other people in general, I just want to be a friend to them and value them, like I said earlier, just value them for who they are and find what's unique in them, and just be so happy about them and just love them for it.
Definitely being that representation of Christ, right, in the midst of that. Yeah. Okay, so then now, Tyler. So how would you highlight, like, how that community or having that time with your small group, how do you feel like that aided you in the midst of the retreat?
Yeah, so being around the other seniors and the leaders and Bannet himself, they really just helped me challenge myself, and through that challenging, I was able to really see what God has been trying to tell me for the past few months, and just really go deep into conversation with him through the quiet times we had, and then with the discussions we had in our group. I was able to share what I thought with the others, and they were able to give me feedback and help me really figure out where it is that I wanted to take it, and what it is that I was trying to hear from God too. So they helped me discern what exactly he was telling me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So what about you, Allie? How do you feel like that, having that community aspect of being away on the retreat kind of help you decipher some of that stuff?
Yeah, so something that stood out to me is that all the seniors shared like what they are anxious or worried about regarding the future, and like we all had the same worries. So like that was super encouraging. And then I also had a ton of really deep and good conversations with some of the girls in my small groups. So that was super fruitful too.
Yeah, absolutely. So man, I know that this is such a senior-focused thing, but the reality is that we all have experienced it at some point, or if you're 6th grade through 11th grade, like you will experience this at some point. And this transition is so important. Like I said, as Brad shared, that there's some scary statistics of those who really struggle during this time. So just to transition out of this, but also into our game, which our seniors are going to help me lead, I just want to pray over our seniors. And so if you would just bow your heads with me, and not just these two, but all of our seniors, just as they're continuing to prepare for this next season. So let's just pray together. Father, I just thank you for, I just thank you for the opportunity to be able to get away, focus on your word, focus on just our relationship with you. And I'm thankful that we had so many seniors who were able to make it work, and we missed those who weren't able to come with us. But man, just thank you for being fruitful in the midst of the time that we were there. It was just a short, 24 hours, 30-hour thing, but man, we saw you move in good ways in our conversations and our quiet time with you. So I just pray that you continue to lead and guide the steps of our seniors as they decipher how to finish the senior year well, but also prepare for their future. We love you. We trust you. In your name we pray. Amen. Awesome. So Tyler, if you would go onto this side of the stage. So now our seniors are going to help me lead our game, which has to do with world records. How many people remember like the book, the Guinness Book of World Records? Like they had like the really long like fingernailed woman. That's the one I always remember. Like that was so gross because they curled, and it was like she could like curl back and like touch her like elbow or something with her fingernails. Oh yeah, it was gross. So with this, it's gonna be, I don't know, does that gross anybody out? Like it just like, it's like etched in my brain and it's gross. But either way, so we have a trivia-based game. This is gonna be an easy one. You can stand up in a second, because I know sometimes I say those things, you stand up halfway and then I'm like, oh wait, I'm not ready yet. So we're gonna stand up and we're gonna go one for the first option. So I think it's A, B, C, and D. So A, B, C, and D, okay? And so with that, I ask that you guys keep each other accountable. Tyler, you're going to keep this side of the room accountable. Allie, you're going to keep this side of the room accountable. And I'm going to try to keep the middle accountable, okay? So we're just going to go through these, and we have the opportunity, which I just realized I didn't bring it with me. But I have candy for those who are the last ones standing when it's all said and done, okay? And even if that means we get halfway through our questions, we'll owe the last handful to sit down to do that. So everybody, let's stand up to play our game, which is the official world records. Yes. That's right, Brett. Show some energy. All right, so there we go. We got some music, too. So I'm going to start us off with the first question. Maybe. Okay, so this is the world record. Consecutive pogo stick jumps. 20,147 is A, 50,936 is B, 88,047 is C, and 110,021 is D. By the way, there's no reason for you to have to do what I just did. I just did it for sake. So is it A, B, or C? Dirty. Whoops. There's a fourth option.
It looks like we have a lot of B's and C's over
You're
here.
seeing lots of B's and C's. What about you, Allie? What are you seeing over there? Anything? What are you seeing over there?
I'm seeing a lot of twos over here.
Okay. All right, lock in your answers and let's see what it is. Oh, it is C. That's less than I thought it was going to be. Okay. Congratulations for all those that are still standing. Tyler, how about you read our next one for us? Or I guess just you could banter back and forth with the crowd. You don't have to read all of the answers.
All right, so the next one we have is the largest pizza in square feet. 10,270 feet for A. 11,860 feet for B.
Okay.
13,580 feet for C, and 15,220 feet for D.
Ooh. All right, now here's the thing. Square feet, that makes things interesting. Square feet makes it interesting because that's a lot of square feet.
That is.
So lock in your answers. I'm going with the solid 2.
I think I'm going to go with 4.
You're going with 4?
For 4.
That's huge. Allie, what do you think it is?
I think it's B.
All right, lock in your answers. Let's see what it is. I didn't sit down. Look how big that sucker is.
Oh my goodness.
How big of an oven do you have to make that thing? Wow. All right. Is there anybody still standing?
What do you think they measured it with?
Bella. So you got about like what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like four or 5 people total? 6? All right, let's go one more and see if we can thin you out one more time. So Allie, how about you take this one?
The most layers on a sandwich. A, 30, B, 60, C, 120, and D, 80.
It's for sure 180.
It's gotta be.
180 layer sandwich is totally doable. If you think about all the layers of the meat and the cheese, like...
The question is, was there a piece of bread in between every single layer?
I think the bread counts.
Yeah?
Counts. All right, lock in your answers for those that are still standing. Let's find out what it is. You're saying 3?
Oh, we got
What?
some.
That's like only like this big.
Nice.
All right. So for those that are still standing, if you can hear me, Mike, it's starting to get a little harder to see back there. But those that are standing, if you want to keep your guys accountable, I owe each of you all a piece of candy after our large group today. Awesome. No, don't sit down. Everybody stand back up. Let's go a couple more. Whew. I know we lost so many during the first round.
You know, I think it was so short because it has to be able to stand by itself.
Gotta stand on its own. You put toothpicks in it. All right, let's go to the next one. The fastest time to peel and eat an orange blindfolded. Ooh. So 17 seconds, 37 seconds, 67, or 97.
Do you think it's a small orange or a big orange, though?
Well, which one would be easier? I feel like a bigger orange would be easier to peel.
That's true.
I don't know. I feel like people are pretty fast. I'm going with B. You're saying 17 seconds? Y'all are crazy. All right, lock in your answers. All right, let's show them what we got. Oh. Welcome to the stage, band. All right, let's go one more, and then we'll transition into worship. The longest bicycle, 75 feet 8 inches, 102 feet 5 inches, 135 feet 10 inches, 168 feet 2 inches. Is it A, B, C, or D? Leah, what do you think it is?
I'm going C.
She's saying C. Leah has spoken with C. What is it? Ooh, she's dead on. Awesome. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Allie. If you could just drop your mic at the tech booth for me, that would be awesome. Oh, okay. Doing my dance. Don't mind me. Okay. So now that we are done with our game, let's just hone it in for a second. Man, I love being here on Wednesdays, not only because we have fun, we have small group time, but man, I just love worshiping with you guys. I love when we really are just fully into what we're singing about. There's just something special about hearing one another, being together in that. There's an intimacy in it. So I ask you guys, hey, man, let's have some fun and enjoyment in the way that we worship together. So let's take it, worship band. You guys got it.
All right, there we go. Would you stand and join us as we worship? Got to get you clapping on this one. Warm up. Here we go. Salvation, tearing through the dead of night. See the kingdom burst into color at the speed of light. Freedom, shaking up the atmosphere as the shadows fade into nothing as the day ends. Beyond the skies above, the everlasting one, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Here we go. Oh, we look to the sun, set our eyes on the Savior, see the image of love, sing His praises forever. Oh, we look to the sun. Creation, waking up to kingdom come. See the hope of heaven shining like the rising sun. Now forever lifted up from death to life. There's no fear in love and no darkness in His endless love. Beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Here we go. Oh, we look to the sun, set our eyes on the Savior, see the image of love, sing His praises forever. Oh, we look to the sun. Beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us. Every voice. The everlasting one, Jesus our God. Sing that again. Beyond the skies above, love reaching out for us, the everlasting one, Jesus our God. Oh, we look to the sun, set our eyes on the Savior, see the image of love, sing His praises forever. Oh, we look to the sun. Oh, we look to the sun. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but He brought me in. Oh, His love for me. Oh, His love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, He has ransomed me. His grace runs deep. While I was count on one thing. The same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will. On one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. He won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of holy. Nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of holy. Nothing can stand against. Here we go. I choose to praise, nothing can stand against. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of holy. Nothing can stand against. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. Amen. Jesus, would that be true of us? God, that in the lowest valley, your praise would be on our lips. God, that in our highest mountain, that your praise would be on our lips. Jesus, you are the only one who is worthy. And we come before you in just complete awe and worship. God, open our hearts to you that we could hear what you would have to speak to us. God, maybe you're speaking to us about our anxieties and our fears, and maybe it's really hard to worship you in that valley. I pray that you would meet us here in this space tonight. Reveal yourself to us. We love you and we give you all the praise in your name, Jesus. Amen. You guys can take a seat.
I think my family was just, they were always there for me.
I think my parents.
I mean, I would just go to my closest friends.
Youth leader or my mentor.
Humans were made to live in relationship with one another. We live in families, hang out with friends. We learn best from other people. Relationships can help calm us down, make us feel safe, and help us when anxious feelings start to make us feel stuck.
I think definitely my mother. She went through a lot of the same things I did. What she says to me about that really helps.
My grandmother is very, very supportive when it comes to school or how to deal with my stress.
I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters, so I usually talk about the problem with my brothers and sisters. Yeah, so sometimes when I do have to get stuff done and everybody's coming into my room, my mom's telling me to wash the dishes, my brother's telling me to play games with them, I'm like, can you please leave me alone? I'm trying to get this stuff done.
You'll start to realize, parents aren't perfect. They're not always gonna know what to do.
For example, if my mom would try to fix something for me, she would then get anxious. And then it was this isn't helping anyone.
I grew up in a family where it was you do what you do because you have to do it. You didn't cry about it. But I think one thing I always knew was I always had a rock. My mom was always there.
When I was in high school, my parents were actually going through a divorce. So just going through that while also trying to focus on my own things.
My family, they definitely live up to that older generation stereotype of you don't talk about generically mental health issues or at a basic level emotions that you're feeling. To their credit is that there's a silent love that they commit to. I'm thinking about all the times that my father would wake up in the morning or make the time available to get me to places, let me do my things, so to speak.
I come from a Latin American family, and so going away for college was not our custom. And I wanted to do what all my friends were doing, so my anxiety also just had a cultural piece to it. Did I want to be my own person and do what my friends were doing, or did I want to honor what was my family's idea of what you should do after high school? And I applied to schools out of state and then ended up actually staying home. My dad always made himself available, so if I was having a really overwhelming day, just his paying attention to what was happening was really helpful.
Definitely, there are times where you go to them and either it's because they're too busy or whatever, and you tell them and they just give you nothing. They are a resource, but when they fail you, which sometimes they do, you have to just follow through to another resource that you have.
I think counselors and teachers really help. Sometimes you won't have the best counselor or teacher, but you will find one that you can really open up to.
The people you're comfortable with, the people whose opinions you respect and honor.
My mom's friends, they were very helpful too. And then just my closest friends, even their parents sometimes would help too.
There's definitely the individuals who would come help lead youth group ministry stuff or tutoring. Most of those young adults, because I went to a Korean American church, happen to be also Korean Americans, and so having people you can relate to helps.
My youth leaders specifically were the second parents that I had and could go to and just ask for prayer or ask for help or just vent. So having relationships with adults outside my family were really helpful to help me navigate my anxious times in high school.
All right. Well, what is up, LBC Youth? It is super good to be with you here tonight, whether you're online with us or here in the youth complex. I feel like this hat kind of casts a shadow on my eyes.
It does. This is awesome.
Do I look cooler?
Cooler if you're down.
Down.
I mean, this looks better.
A little bit more epic.
Yeah.
Cool.
Looks good.
Like
let's take a quick. Hey, we need to, because Jensen was throwing some shade on the chairs that we chose.
Yeah.
Let's get a vote from the audience.
I'll do it. Wait. I'll do a full swing around.
Full swing around. What do you guys think about the chairs? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yeah. Read it and weep, Jensen.
Yeah, Jensen. Oh, yeah.
Better stick with your day job.
Speaking of Jensen, if you don't know Jensen, you should. But anybody at Southeast stop by and see Jensen this past week in the library? Woo! Jensen gives us a report every day. 4 people stopped by and said hi. I mean, 6 people have stopped by. Cordell always stops by after school.
Cordell.
So good job, Cordell. Hey, LBC Youth, we are excited to be here. We are going to, tonight is going to look a little different. As we know, this has been a unique season, and the last 2 weeks, the people we have landed to teach have either been suddenly in COVID quarantine or have got COVID themselves. So now you have me and Tyler today. We thought we'd try something a little bit different, team teaching.
The few, the proud.
Yeah.
COVID
So
free.
we're going to
Knock on
banter.
wood.
We're going
Knock
to
on
banter a little bit, but what does that mean?
Well, I just said we're still COVID free.
COVID free, yeah.
We've never had it. So
Yeah.
I just knocked on wood.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Tonight is the night. Hopefully not.
All right. Cool. Well, let's get started today. I want to do a little like check-in, see how you guys are doing. If you're here last week, we did this. So the slide will come up. How are you doing physically? 1 to 10. 1 to 10. So think 1 being low, 10 being high, no fives. All right. So here we go. This is going to be quick. So if you, only raise your hand if I say your number. 1 or 2 physically. 3 or 4. 6 or 7. 8 or 9. How many of you are a perfect 10 physically?
Perfect 10.
Perfect 10s.
Dang, that's
Awesome.
incredible.
That's
I
good.
need to take some notes from you.
Yeah. All right. How about your relational status? Not whether you're dating or not, but just relationally. How are you doing? 1 to 10. Tyler, you want to take them through the list?
Yes. So if you're a 1 or 2, that's good. 3 or 4. Okay. 6 or 7. Okay. 8 or 9. Valentine's Day is coming up. Who's a 10?
Ooh, that just, you saw people go, I mean, it was like they were going up and then, I don't know.
Taylor
Something
got
happened
engaged.
there.
That's
So-
right.
Oh,
That's right.
still
Finger,
engaged. Wow, Tyler, she's still
finger,
engaged.
still
That's
engaged.
awesome. All right, how about spiritual? How are you doing spiritually today, this week?
Spiritually.
All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many of you are a 10? Nice.
Love it.
That's awesome. That's good.
Love it.
All right, this last one we're going to have you stand up, though, for your number. Just to get you moving a little bit as we get ready to go.
Moving and shaking around.
All right, mentally, since we're talking about mental health this series, how are you doing mentally? Like, if you described your mental health today, if you were a 1 or 2,
Stand up.
1 or
If
2,
you're
stand
1 or
up.
2.
1 or 2, stand up.
Thanks for
Great.
sharing.
Thank you for your courageousness. Good job. Sit down. 3 or 4. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Okay.
All right. I'm in that. I think I'm in there. I'm in
8
the
or
6
9?
7. Woo.
Okay. Whoa.
Wow.
And perfect 10.
Mental
Anyone?
giants.
Okay.
Mental health giants
Yeah.
right there.
Let's go.
Boom.
Let's
I think they should
go.
come up and teach this right now.
I think so.
All
I
right.
feel like they're more equipped than I am.
All right, just so you understand, if you're new here, we've got so many people. If you, just for you guys to get a little perspective, last week was our biggest week since COVID, and attendance-wise, it feels like this week is probably bigger than that week. So, man, we're excited to be back. We're excited to start to get some momentum moving. We have a lot of things that we've got kind of planning. We're getting ready to go, but just a reminder, a couple things. We always try to lead towards small groups. So if you come in this big group and you go like, man, this is a huge group. I don't know what to do with this group. I don't feel like I fit in. I don't know where to sit. I don't know what to do. I totally understand. That probably caused some anxiety in your life. Some of you just walking into this building. But our goal is to help you get into a small group where you can really get known and be known and really grow and make some next steps. So to start this mental health series, here's the definition. It's going to be on the screen. This is a really long definition, but it is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and can make a contribution to her or his community. Now, that would be a great vocab test if we were giving tests. But really what we want you to know is that we're talking about the normal stresses of life. How you cope and deal with normal stresses. If you have trauma or crisis in your life, that's a whole different thing. And we really want to help you with that. But that is not something that we could necessarily help on from the stage or even in your small groups necessarily. We want to help get you the help that you need. But all of us deal with mental health. All of us struggle with it at times. All of us have to respond to it. Last week we learned that talking about anxiety is it might be telling us something that is wrong or that we're in danger, or it might be telling us something about our bodies, our relationships, or maybe that about our food and sleep patterns. The key we learned is, where is God at work we talked about, where's God at work in my anxiety? What is my anxiety telling me? Is it telling me something that I need to be aware of? Because sometimes our anxiousness is because we put ourselves in places that just kind of a little yellow flags, like, hey, pay attention to this. So that's what we talked about last week.
Yes. So tonight, we get to talk about something real fun. And this is something that we're all a part of. So we're going to talk about how families can impact the way we feel and the anxieties that we can sometimes experience from our families. So I want to ask this question. Brad, are you going to run around? Sweet. Okay, so I'm going to ask this question, and Brad's going to run around. So if you want to share, raise your hand. So what is the last thing that you argued or disagreed about with someone at home? It can be today, if it needs to be.
What you got, Cordell?
My family was stressed. My grandma died. He passed away. And go to a funeral on Friday.
Hey, Cordell, can Tyler pray for you right now and your family? Is that okay?
I'd
Tyler,
love to. Absolutely. Jesus, thank you for Cordell and the Barthelman family. Lord, I just pray for his family right now, and as they are mourning the loss of a loved one, Jesus, I just pray that you would be with them, that you would show them yourself, that you would, just comfort them and be with them during this time as they experience this as a family. In your name, amen. Thanks for sharing, Cordell. All right, Brad, you have another one?
About like my style and how I present myself as a person.
Okay, style and how you present yourself, yeah.
How many of you have had that conversation where your parents have disagreed on maybe what you wore or just kind of how you're presenting yourself?
Yeah.
Awesome.
For sure.
Awesome. I'm over on the other side now. Anybody on this side?
Ooh, we got a few hands.
Paying attention when I'm supposed to be at school.
Ooh, anybody have a conversation disagreement about how much you're paying attention at school or grades?
Especially if you're at home trying to Zoom.
Oh,
all
that's
that
the worst.
Stuff.
That is the worst.
Brad, how many more are you doing? One or two?
Let's do two more.
Two more.
If water is wet.
Ooh, okay.
That is a
Sometimes
high,
arguments can be
high,
fun.
high item,
like,
high
is
item.
a hot dog a sandwich? We will not go there right now.
All
right, next one.
Yep, I have to go to the seniors.
Of course. What?
Okay, this is really silly, but
All
me
right.
and my brother and my sister had an argument over what's the best Larry's, like silly songs with Larry song.
Okay.
That was earlier today.
What did you choose?
Cebu.
Cebu.
Yikes. Silly songs with Larry.
There you go. All right.
I think that's what we should do next.
Let's do it. All right.
Thanks for running around, Brad.
I needed the exercise. Hey, why don't you turn to somebody and share the last argument or discussion that you had within your family that did not necessarily go well, or there was a disagreement. You got 30 seconds. Go.
Go.
All right. You guys do such a great job of sharing. Great job. Honestly, families can be annoying at times. They can be awesome, but then every once in a while they're a little annoying. And honestly, if we're honest,
honesty,
we're annoying sometimes. Like, Tyler, do you ever find yourself annoying?
All the time.
Does Leah ever find you annoying?
Yes.
Yes.
Every day.
Every day she finds you annoying. Yeah. So guys, it isn't just families. It's like sometimes it's even the people closest to us, like our close group of friends, or what we consider supporters. Sometimes even our closest people can get frustrated or annoying to us, and we can cause this anxiety in us. Tonight, we really want to talk about, like, how do we deal with the people that are closest to us? Because they have a closer, like, they mean more. Like, if just a random person on the street is annoying to you, they don't mean as much maybe to you, but man, somebody that you live with, your family member, somebody that you feel is connected with you, starts annoying with you, that can cause anxiety at a whole different level.
Yeah, for sure. So tonight we're going to look at a story from Jesus' life. And last week we talked about a story where Jesus met them in the boat, right? And what we learned from that is that Jesus doesn't shy away from our anxiety. He joins us in it, right? He's there with us. So tonight's story is going to be a story about the disciples before they were disciples.
Disciples before they
disciples. Before disciples.
Before disciples were even this disciple thing. Yeah.
Before there was a thing.
Cool. Luke 5. We're going to read Luke 5. I'm going to read it, and then Tyler is going to give you the word of truth. One day, as Jesus was preaching on the shore of Galilee, great crowds pressed into him to listen to the word of God. He noticed 2 empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deep and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked all last night and didn't catch a thing. But I guess if you say so, I'll let the nets down again." And this time their nets were so full of fish, they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus. He said, "Oh, Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others. His partners, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. But Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus.
So when Jesus began his ministry, he was kind of doing it by himself, right? He was teaching, he was drawing large crowds, he was going around, he was handling everything A-okay. But then, this story talks about how Jesus sees some guys in a boat, he realizes that the crowds are too large, and then something peculiar. He goes over to this guy in a boat and says, "Hey, can I get in your boat?" I don't know if he just hopped in or whatnot, but he got in the boat, and they pushed out. So can you imagine being Simon in this moment? Who's this guy? Who's this guy wanting to get in my boat? But he went with it. Jesus gave a great message. And then the crowds left. And he said, "Hey, before we go back into shore, let's go cast our nets a little bit deeper. Why don't you take us a little deeper and go fishing?" All right? So remember, these guys are professional fishermen. These guys live and breathe being a fisherman, right? This is what they do. So it was hard work being a fisherman. And these guys had just done all night, and they hadn't caught anything. And then out of nowhere, this random dude shows up and says, "Hey, let's go try it in a different place." How would you feel about someone trying to tell you to do your job better? And you're like, "What's up?" No, that's not going to happen. However, Simon, for some reason, said, "Okay, let's do it. Let's go for it." And as soon as they put their nets overboard, what does it say? They began to catch fish. So I'm sure that they were like, "Oh, this is awesome. We haven't caught anything. This is great." And then they're like, whoa, we have a lot of fish. And all of a sudden their boat starts sinking, and they're like, "Oh, help, right? They had so many fish that they couldn't contain them within their boat. They got all the fish to the boat. Then what happens? Verse 8. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh, Lord, please leave me. I am such a sinful man." What happens when Simon Peter takes his eyes off of what Jesus is doing in this situation? When Simon brings his eyes away from what God's doing and he starts looking at himself, he starts focusing on himself, this is where you see doubt come into play. Simon realizes that the only possible way that we're professional fishermen, we spent all night in this exact same location, we just went out a little bit deeper, we didn't catch anything, and now this man, who they've probably heard about, reading scriptures or whatever, is there with them. And he knows this. And what does he say? He says, "Jesus, leave me." He tries to push him away. His failures come back. His imperfections come back. Right? As he's looking at someone who is so perfect, his imperfections seem really big, right? Does anyone else relate to that in the room? Does anyone else, when you're feeling worried, you just kind of stray away from people? Do you stray away from Jesus? Or maybe like Simon, when you're standing in the presence of someone that you look up to, and all of a sudden you feel really like, oh, you might start, sometimes I get a little sweaty. It's like, oh man, I'm never going to compare up to this person, right? Does that ever happen to you? Anyone in the room? Man, sometimes we go through that. But notice Jesus' response. Notice his response. He doesn't say, okay, Peter, I'll give you what you want. I'll go away. And when you're ready, come find me again. We can have a conversation. But what does he say? He says, don't be afraid. And from now on, you'll be fishers of people. Right? I don't think Simon had any idea what was just going on in this moment. But not only did Jesus meet him where he was at, he called him into something else. He called him into something greater, something bigger. He gave purpose back to Peter's life. And that is so cool. He said, don't worry about it. I got you. I'm not judging you. I want to be with you. I want to show you a new way to fish and fish for people. So Jesus was beginning to show Peter and the rest of the guys that he called into this ministry with him how to care for one another. This was Jesus starting to create his team, his inner circle of guys, these disciples, the 12 that he would do life with. Super cool.
Yeah, so what I want to talk about for a second is in families. Like Peter, when he saw and experienced Jesus, it was like he almost pushed back. He goes, Jesus, get away. I can't be around you. You're so good. Now, sometimes in our families, it isn't because we think they're so good, but sometimes when we have conflict with our families, some of us run, some of us isolate, whether that's sometimes physically, we go to our rooms, some of us just emotionally isolate, and we run from people. And what we wanted to show out of this passage is that when we experience those moments, Jesus is there, not to judge us, not to say, get away, just distance, that's right, run from people, run away from emotions. But instead, Jesus said to Peter, hey, don't be afraid. Sometimes when you're feeling alone and feeling like your families have just frustrated you or hurt you, it feels like you just want to, you're all alone and just want to run. But we want you to remember that Jesus met Peter and said, hey, don't be afraid. I've got bigger plans for you to be in community. Sometimes that's the way I think Jesus is showing us how to deal with family problems. See, when I grew up, my mom, me and my mom did not have a great relationship. We just didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. She was really negative, really critical, never heard a word of affirmation. I can't remember a word of affirmation my whole childhood. When it got to be in high school, that escalated to a whole different level where she was super critical, I think now because she was nervous about what I was doing or where I was going. But she was we were just wouldn't hardly talk to each other. If it was not nice things said to each other. And it got to the point where I was just done with her. I was just like, I can't wait to leave. I don't need to have a relationship with her. I'll be nice, but that's it, And so for the next 10 or 15 years, I distanced myself from my mom. We went home for Christmas. We did the family stuff, but it was pretty distant. It was definitely emotionally distant. And about 10, 15 years after I graduated high school, God did something to me, and it reminded me of something, and he prompted me, and I didn't want to do it. And I was just like, I remember just going, I don't want to do this. Why? She doesn't deserve this. This is a dead relationship. I don't need to invest in this. And God told me to ask her story. And I'm going I don't want to do that. But I started asking her story. And as I heard her tell about her childhood, a lot of things got really clear. As she started to share, she had never shared with people about her life. So this was the first time. Even my dad was over listening. He goes I've never heard this. And she would share story after story about how her mom treated her so poorly. How she had lost 2 siblings. How everyone in her life had told her she was worthless, she was dumb, and she would never amount to anything. How she in her position in her family was always seen as the bad one. I knew her mom, my grandma, and she was that type of person. And my heart changed towards my mom. Over time, it changed a lot. Hard part is I realized quickly I will never have the relationship with my mom that I really crave one that is loving and caring and mutually back and forth. But my heart towards her, towards the pain, like I wanted to run. I never wanted to come back. And God was saying, hey, what if I wanted to show you something about who I called you to be for her? So I listened to her story and I got to know her. And up to 2 years, I mean, we've been talking. I mean, we're still not close, but we've been talking. We've been caring. She's opening up and sharing just some horrific stuff. And it was been really interesting to walk with her, and then to be able to walk with her during her mom's final days and sitting with her in her mom's last day of life. I drove to Iowa and I remember sitting in this Culver's, because that's what my mom loves, Culver's, and just seeing my mom see the person, like realize that the person she desperately loves, because she wants to love a mom figure herself. Watching her also realize that was the person who cost her the most, like hurt her the most. And realizing that this woman had minutes or hours to live. And this woman never asked for forgiveness. To literally the last time she spoke, I wish you were never born, to my mom. But watching my mom and listening to my mom and helping her process those things, I realized that maybe God was wanting to use me in a different way, and it wasn't about me. Sometimes your families are a mess. Sometimes they do crazy things, and sometimes maybe if it's not horrific and maybe it's just annoying, maybe I invite you to use a tool of asking them their story. Even if you have great parents, ask them their story. How'd you grow up? What'd you do for fun? What was your first job? Did you have pets? Just ask them questions, get to know them, and you might get to know a little bit of why they parent you the way they parent you. And it might help you process some of those things. And so you might find that you meet Jesus in the middle of it.
For sure. More often than not, God wants us to be together. And it's hard. It can be really, really hard. But sometimes even the normal levels of anxiety will cause us to push people out, especially those that are closest to us. The ones that sometimes have the greatest ability to hurt us, right? Like another thing off of Brad's talk there is be curious. Be curious about behavior. Ask questions. Ask questions. Lots of questions. But if your parents maybe say, that's enough questions, respect them, right? Respect them. Awesome. Well, we're going to invite someone up here who's going to share a story and just sharing about relationships are hard. Relationships are hard, but they're worth it. Megan, if you want to make your way on up. But we are designed to be at our best when we're with God and we're in community with people. So, Megan, you have a cool story that is going to highlight this. So feel free. Take a seat at the cool chair, Jensen. Awesome. So this is Megan, everyone. You've probably seen her around. She's a small group leader here. Awesome. And, yep, there you go.
You took away half of my intro.
Oh, so sorry. Forget
okay.
everything I just told you. This is?
I'm Megan.
Yes.
Hi. I co-lead a group of junior girls. They're pretty awesome. A little bit about me, to just introduce myself. I work part-time at Joann's Craft Store, and I also nanny a 2-year-old. So I keep pretty busy doing that, but if I'm not there, I'm usually hanging out with friends, my husband, playing video games, watching movies, or crafting. As working at Joann's, it's very dangerous. So Brad asked me to share a little bit of my story with you. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background. This event happened probably about 3 years ago, I think. My husband, Nathan, and I had decided that we were going to be leaving the church that we were currently going to and start attending Berean. We just kind of needed a change of scenery and change of culture. We decided that probably like early spring or late spring, early summer, But we wanted to finish out some ministries and find some replacements for ourselves before leaving. So we had quite a few months before we left. So during those months, I experienced a lot of anxiety and stress, and just leaving the place that I practically grew up in was just kind of stressful. Like, we weren't moving or anything, it was just moving, like pretty much uprooting my life to go to a new place, and that was a little nerve-wracking. I'm a very extroverted person. If you ever get to know me, I'm usually the life of the party. But I grew up in a non-emotional home. The emotions you showed were happiness or nothing at all. So going from that, during that summer, I was invited to a really close friend's birthday party, and Nathan wouldn't be going with me because he was out of town. But things between this friend and myself were a little strained, just with the fact that Nathan and I were leaving, and we weren't the greatest at communication. So things were just kind of piling on at that point. So throughout the whole party, I got there like in the morning. I think we were at like Wagon Train Lake or something. And so we were hanging out, and for whatever reason, I just started to feel this really heavy weight in my chest, and it just kept on building and building and building. And I needed to get out of there, or otherwise I was going to start crying in front of everyone, and I'm not a crier in front of people. It makes me very uncomfortable. So I made an excuse to leave early, which was very out of the normal for me. So I got in my car and I started driving away, and as soon as I was out of sight of everyone, I started hyperventilating and crying. At that point in time, I didn't know what it was, but I was having a panic attack. So I called Nathan on my way home because I needed to talk to somebody. And having lifelong partners like that is pretty nice because they're stuck with you. So I had a hard time kind of explaining how I was feeling. I just knew that I was overwhelmed. I had felt ignored and lonely around a whole bunch of people, which was abnormal, and I just feel rejected. After I was able to finally calm down a bit, Nathan was able to kind of get that out of me, and he told me I should go home and go calm down and go hang out with our dogs because they're nice to hang out with, and they definitely help you to calm down. And so after hanging up on Nathan, I prayed a little prayer asking God to help me calm down enough to be able to drive, because crying and driving is not safe. If you're doing that, pull over, please. And I prayed just to calm down a little bit and help me get through my emotions and to get home safely. So then once I was home, I texted Nathan and told him I got home fine, and I was like, I really wish that you were home because I don't want to be home by myself. And he suggested that I text some friends that we trusted and to hang out with them. And so I texted some friends, and they came over, and it was so helpful because I just felt loved at that point in time. And like, we didn't even really talk through what I had went through. One of my friends, like, I told him what the issue was and why I needed to hang out, so off the hat. And one of my friends texted me afterwards, after they had left and I went to bed. They texted me, they were like, don't ever do that again, please, because seeing you like that was so weird. And so we hung out for a while, and then I was like, okay, now I need to go to sleep, so go away. And so after that, I felt a lot better of being able to identify how I was feeling. But since then, I have really been able to identify the things that make me anxious, and I've figured out ways to really kind of handle those and go through them. Because anyone can tell you, just don't worry about it. You'll be fine. Just do it and you'll be fine. And to a point, that's true, but you're still going to feel it a little bit. And some of the things that I have figured out for myself that really help is prayer, just saying a little prayer, even at the beginning or at the end of whatever's going on, to help ground yourself, to realize I can't do this by myself, and the best helper is God. And so he's just the foundation and the rock for you to be able to get you through that. And like, I was putting this together this afternoon, and I was super jittery, and I just prayed, and I felt so much better after that. It was insane. I was like, sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen, but it helps me realize that I'm not in control. God is. And whatever God is going to do for me is the best thing that can happen. And then having people around you that you can trust and feel comfortable with and can be vulnerable with. Because you can definitely feel comfortable with someone and not necessarily share everything with that person. I'm definitely a person who has trouble being vulnerable with people occasionally. But when you have that close circle, knit people, sometimes it's a peer, sometimes it's an older sibling or a parent or a small group leader. Once you feel that you can be vulnerable with that person, you can come to them without any judgment. And as long as they're able to listen to you, it sincerely just feels so much better having someone else to go through it with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Megan.
Yeah.
That is great. Brad, welcome back up here.
Awesome. Give a hand to Megan. Thank you for
Yes.
sharing that. It was awesome. It was great. Well, we want to quick wrap up. Give you just some ideas. Like, remember that when you feel like at the end of yourself and you feel you just want to push everybody away, remember Jesus is there. He's telling you, don't be afraid. He's there with you, and he wants to invite you into community. So we got 3 quick things.
I was going to say the moral is buy dogs.
Or buy dogs.
Buy
there
dogs.
we go.
Just kidding.
Look up. If you ever find yourself at a place where you feel overwhelmed, especially with family, look up. Pause in the midst of the anxiousness and look up and see where God is. Know that God is right there with you, and that you could really just, like Megan said, just pray, and it's like, whew, I feel like I'm not alone. I can handle this.
Look inside is the second one. So reflect on God, where God is working inside of you. God is moving if we're looking for it. Look at that. Reflect inside.
And lastly, look around. Look around who God's put in your life. And make sure if you don't have a circle of friends, be actively recruiting circle of friends or people that you could trust in your life so that when those anxious moments come, you have them. No matter if you're in 6th grade or 12th grade, it's so important to look around and find those people, invite those people in before you hit some of those hard moments. So,
Yes.
Tyler, you want to wrap us up tonight?
Yes. So this week we invite you to invest in your family. Ask a parent to tell them about their childhood, not your childhood. Ask questions about their story and listen to them. Also, we invite you to find a family member or a trusted adult that you can bring into your circle, that you can help, that you can bring your stress, you can bring your anxiety, just kind of like Megan was sharing. There was a group of people that she trusted to share how she was feeling in that moment and that she walked with them. Is that it?
Wrap it up.
Okay, cool. I'll pray. Jesus, thank you for tonight. Thank you for just the ability to be together. Lord, I pray as we navigate relationships with our families that you would be with us, that you would shower us with grace, that you would allow us to shower our parents with grace and love. Father, that we would be able to, and sometimes even just show your love and your grace to our parents by the way we respond when we feel like we're being treated unfairly. Lord, we ask that you be with us tonight as we jump into our small groups, and that we'd have great conversation. In your name, amen.
Amen. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for sticking with us. Some of these topics are going to be a little bit heavier than others, and we really appreciate your attention and participation. So high schoolers, go ahead and take off. 8th graders, you go ahead and start taking